God damn it, Brylan!
I'm sorry. I gotta catch up. After I see Metal Angel I promise. So, Scouts.
I'm not this a video, not a video podcast.
I promise to catch up.
I mean, I will take your promise. I will hold you to it. But if you do not watch this, we will have a problem. And welcome to the Down in Front Podcast, the official podcast of downinfrontpodcast.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for joining. If this is your first time kind of hanging with us, I want to say thanks so much for hanging out with us. What we usually do here on the Down in Front Podcast is that we review movies, TV shows, all a bunch of stuff, all while having usually our favorite alcoholic beverages. But we've been also mixing it up because it's a new year, so new year, new us. And sometimes you don't actually drink alcohol. Tonight, we are going to be giving you a full rundown and a full review of the Lego Movie 2, the second part. So I'm super pumped because I really, really enjoyed the first Lego Movie a lot. So I was definitely excited once we came to vote for this movie. The last movie came out 5 years ago in 2014, so I'm curious to see how that is, especially if it's another sequel, and this is probably the biggest movie to start this year. So, before
some of those Lego sets take a long time to build.
I know. I mean, clearly all the Lego sets in this movie took like fucking forever, so that's actually pretty cool. But that beautiful, beautiful, sultry voice you just heard, I have the marvelous mouth of the South. Brylan, what's going on, man? What you sipping on tonight, and what else have you been watching?
I'm doing well this evening. Great to see you again, as always, Warren. What I'm sipping on right now, I'm just sipping on some nice green tea just because it's kind of cold and nasty outside, so I just wanted to stay warm for the evening. But what I've been watching recently is I went and saw in the movie theaters the latest documentary by Peter Jackson, They Shall Not Grow Old. Which is a documentary on World War I, and it's actually a very unique film to see. And I recommend anybody see it, especially if you're interested in the technical craft of making movies or even restoration of film, because it's not a documentary that kind of narrates like the whys and who are the key players of World War I. It takes all this 100-year-old footage, especially footage that was filmed in trench warfare in France, and Peter Jackson and his team, they use every trick in the book they can to kind of bring those images more to life, so you can feel kind of immersed into what those soldiers experienced. And it actually makes for a really amazing visual tale of just the soldiers that were involved in this war. And it's really neat to see how it was made. One cool thing I would say about this movie is that at the end of the movie, they actually have a 30-minute making of that Peter Jackson narrates and talks you through how they did some of the tricks they did. So when they were talking about trying to get the right colors for the uniforms to come out of these this footage, they're like, where do we find World War uniforms? It turns out Peter Jackson is the biggest World War I nut on the planet, and he has an entire wardrobe of every single World War I uniform you can think of.
Nice.
When they needed to reference colors of cannons, he's like, let me pull out one of my 15 World War I era cannons out of my garage that
That's
you can actually
creepy,
look
but okay.
at. And I was like, I can understand why he wanted to make this. He's mad obsessed with World War I. That's a really interesting thing to do with all that Lord of the Rings money. But I think visually what they did with this movie is impeccable and stunning. And I don't know where it falls in award eligibility for Best Documentary, but maybe next year it could actually be recognized for some award nominations for its technical craft, because I think it's more of a amazing technical film than a story. But what I would love to see going forward is if they find more footage that kind of tells a tale of other areas or of other theaters of war during World War One, and do the same type of restoration, because I think it's really neat how they did this. Or choose another moment in time, like what if you took like the civil rights footage from the 60s and colorized it and increased the audio and tried to bring out like the people's faces and the detail of who they are more, how that would actually impact an audience today. So it's a fantastic documentary and definitely worth watching.
I mean, so couple questions. One, do you think it's already Oscar buzzworthy?
That's the thing, is it had limited viewings right before January, so I don't know where it falls in the cutoff. So,
no, not 2018 Oscar. I'm talking about in the next
year's
Oscar.
Right. That's the thing, is I don't know if it'd be eligible for next year because it's already been viewed.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't know if it missed out or not. But if it is eligible, yeah, I would definitely put it up there for Oscar worthiness, because I mean it definitely takes a much different approach than most documentaries, and it's more of getting a feel of what you see rather than narrating a story for you.
Nice.
Which I thought was a great approach.
My other question is if this offers, or if this provides you a different viewing experience, should you see it in like IMAX or 3D and stuff like that, or only 2D?
I saw it in 3D. I don't think the 3D added that much to it unless you enjoy watching just still pictures come to life and kind of like come at you. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing I saw in the 3D, but once again, like, reason why I don't see 3D movies is the 3D most of the time doesn't work for me when I watch it, and I just don't see it happening. Okay. So I would see it in the cleanest digital picture. Maybe if you have the chance to see it in Dolby Cinema, definitely see it that way.
I think you've been getting spoiled from that Dolby Cinema. You keep talking about it.
I am.
The movie that we're going to review tonight, we actually saw in Dolby Cinema, so I was super pumped about that.
Yeah. The other thing I've been watching is I went ahead and took some time. I started hearing some buzz about Steven Soderbergh's newest film, High Flying Bird, which is on Netflix. And this is probably my favorite movie of the year so far.
Wow.
I love what they do with this movie from the first scene till the end. It is smartly written. It is a very clever story about the business side of the NBA and how it impacts players and agents and ownership. Where is everybody's hands and in the stake of these contracts and everything. And it also helps people understand, like, once these kids get drafted, it's not like they're handed tons of money and say, live your best life. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of struggle and there's a lot of conflict and renegotiation constantly, and there's a lot of eye-opening things in this movie. It lays out kind of the connections between all these players in the business of the NBA really well. And I think it's almost a must-watch for any sports fan to kind of just get a better look and understanding of how these sports leagues operate, because we may be fans, we may love the game, and when something happens we don't want to see, when a player gets traded or a player is cut, that we don't understand why. This can give you a little bit more insight onto the whys behind that. But also, it also takes the time to address some of the systemic racism that's in the way the leagues are run as well. And I thought it did a fantastic job of portraying that as well. What's really neat about it, it is a drama, but every once in a while it cuts in to actually hear from real NBA rookies about their rookie season and how it affected them and what were some of the lessons they took away when they became a rookie and got drafted into the league as well. So I thought that was a really neat addition to it. And it was all shot on an iPhone, so it has a really unique look to it, which is really cool. But I hope that this movie gets brought up again when award season comes back around next year, especially for its acting. And I think the main actor in the movie, I want to say his name is Andre Holland. I want to make sure I got that right. Andre Holland, yeah. I think he should definitely be considered for an award, but the person that really stands out for me that I hope gets a lot of supporting awards is Bill Duke. And it's amazing to see what he brought to his character of Coach Spence in this movie. He is utterly fantastic.
I know. I saw you kind of talking about it on one of our internal chats before, but I'm curious to kind of get more information and actually watch this, especially if it's on Netflix. So I think that's actually really good. Zazie Beetz is in it, and I have a huge crush on her, so this is even perfect for me to go check this movie out. So that's cool. I know that's something that we actually may end up talking about a little bit later on, so stay tuned for that. But that sounds really dope, especially if you already consider it as one of your favorite, and the 2019 just began. I really, really loved that fact. It almost felt like it was Get Out. When we reviewed that movie and we were blown away, and then the year ends and we were still blown away by Get Out. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. So I think that's actually kind of pretty cool. Even Deadpool too. That also happened with Deadpool.
This is also written by the writer of Moonlight. So.
Ooh, Barry Jenkins. Wait, writer?
It wasn't Barry Jenkins. Well, yeah.
No, it was
Telvin. Is his name Telvin Alvin Smith? I want to say.
I was like, I got really excited for Barry Jenkins, but hold
on. Terrell Alvin McCraney.
Okay. Good stuff. Well, man, always great to see your face. Always good to hear you. So I'm super excited to get your sort of approach on the Lego Movie. My name is Warren. I will be your host this evening. What I am currently sipping on, this is actually funny because this may be our first episode ever that we have nobody drinking alcohol. So kudos to us. I am actually currently sipping on pink lemonade with B vitamins. It's a naturally flavored. It just seems like this literally looks like a knockoff version of vitamin water. By Whole Foods, but it was definitely half the price. So thanks, Whole Foods. I think it was really great. So it's actually pretty good. I've been watching one thing, but really I've been binging a new manga series. I know a lot of people talks about how nerdy that we are, so I will talk about that in a moment. But we finally had a chance to finish Escape at Denimora. It was a 7 episode, seemed like it was a bit of a mini series. So I think it was on Showtime, but I know we watched it like through Xfinity, sort of on demand. And I really, really enjoy the performance of Patricia Arquette. And, Paul Dano's in it, and he was actually pretty solid. I really like Paul Dano's character. I really enjoy Benicio del Toro's character, especially because I have seen him now in a lot of different roles, and this role here that he plays is very, very different than the role that he plays in Star Wars. Well, yeah, that too. But like I was gonna say Star Wars. I really didn't like his really weird, quick quirks that he was actually kind of going with. But the other movie that I seem to forgetting that also has Josh Brolin in it, the movie that he's a hitman,
Sicario.
Thank you. So definitely showing some range. They're portraying people that escape from prison. So it's based on a true, definitely widely based on a true story and something like that. So I just think it was crazy. Patricia Arquette, clearly should get an award. Clearly should get multiple awards because she definitely blew it away. So that's Escape at Denimora. Definitely enjoyable. So definitely go check that out. But I actually been kind of upping up my nerdy game. And I have been reading tons of manga. If you do not know what manga is, it's basically Japanese comics, and it's great. And so I got delayed about 4 hours on Sunday when I was traveling up to Chicago, which was perfect because I was able to read through about 67 chapters of My Hero Academia, cool. All through actually kind of going through on Viz. So I don't know if you know, but Viz ended up becoming basically a lot more accessible for everybody worldwide, which is amazing. And Shonen Jump, and there's there's another one, I can't remember the name, but basically it means that there's no longer for translation. So super, super nerdy topic here for a moment, but Japanese comics and artists, they release their drawings and sketches to the media that's not sort of translated properly, and sometimes there's hackers or leakers that get that information, they translate it on their own, it's not that good, and these are called scanlations. Sometimes those scanlations really mess up the meaning of the story from some of these really popular comics. It happened before, things like Bleach, things like Naruto, and right now I'm reading One Piece and Hunter x Hunter, and so now that Viz has kind of released it all to the public and says, here you go, once it becomes live in Japan, it's going to be live everywhere, basically, and it's going to be a quicker way to actually get official translations. It's been amazing. So now we have access to their entire catalog instead of buying things and stuff like that. All you need to do is have a subscription that's maybe $2-3 a month, and you can go back and read almost anything that's in the Shonen Jump series. So it's really nice. It allows me to download. So I literally have the ability to download 100 chapters at a time on my iPad. And then I can just eat through these, which is actually really cool. So definitely big shout out, big kudos to everybody at Viz and everybody at Shonen Jump. I appreciate that. I love My Hero Academia, and I know that season 3 is coming out soon to actually watch that. So I definitely wanted to kind of read that up because Hunter x Hunter sadly is on hiatus because of the artist's health issues, which I guess is fairly common. Yeah. Which is not very good.
It's unfortunate. Yeah.
There's a documentary. I think you talked about that, right?
Manga and anime creation in Japan is rough. There's definitely something that needs to happen to that industry.
And it's crazy because it's so rough and difficult, and the fan base is way bigger than NFL, baseball, basketball, you name it. The fan base is transcendent around all the globe. It's transcendent around and over like a language barrier, and it's just amazing. And I think one of the best examples for this was there was a video on I think it was the college NCAA final, BCS Bowl, I think if that's what's called, whatever. And there was a video that there was a bunch of fans just kind of walking around the street, and somebody was singing the song of the One Piece sort of anime, and they had a group of like maybe 20 random strangers all singing along, so I thought that was great. So that's what I've been watching. Super nerdy, but that's what I do. So if you're kind of still new to it, I'll make sure that we link all of these things in the show notes of what we've been watching, so you can definitely go check it out. And because it's actually pretty fun for us. So thanks so much. And as we usually do, I'm going to go ahead and lift my drink as our favorite segment here, is that we're going to be dedicating some Send a Sips to all of our lovely people and all the things that we want to send a sips to. So thanks so much. And Bradley, who are you dedicating your sip to tonight? Oh, you're sipping too early. Oh, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm dedicating my sip tonight to the God of Thunder himself, Chris Hemsworth. He and his team that have get him ready for all of his movie roles have recently released a health and wellness app called Center, and I signed up for a year just to try it out. I'm always looking for ways I can make my workouts more dynamic and continue my own journey of improving my health and livelihood as I'm hanging out on this blue planet that we're on. So I'm going to see if it's pretty cool or not. So far, I'm just in like the research phase, going through the app, learning how it works and everything. But I begin my journey on Monday, and I hope to get some really cool results out of it.
Nice. So we dedicate these sips to you.
Chris Hemsworth.
God the Thunder. The cooler
Lord
Hemsworth.
of Thunder.
Cooler Hemsworth. My huge gulp is going to go to Capcom and the people who created Monster Hunter World, because goddamn, that game is addicting. I have crossed the threshold of way too many hours playing, but I think one of the things I do want to kind of call out is this game came out about a year ago. I think actually a little bit over a year ago, last January, and there has been maybe 8 or 9 different updates and kind of different addeds to the game itself that was all free, which is mind-blowing. So I think that's like absolutely phenomenal. The fact that everything's free, basically free to play online as long as you have a PS or you have a membership to play online, whether it's Xbox, PC, or PS4. So I think it's actually pretty great. And one of the most recent updates they did was the Witcher 3 collaboration, which is amazing. If you had a chance, I actually was live streaming that, so I want to make sure that you definitely go check that out. We were live streaming on Twitch and YouTube, and that was a lot of fun. So they're doing more and more sort of collaboration, so I'm really, really excited about that. It's definitely a fun game. I haven't really had this much fun in a game in a very, very long time, so I'm super pumped about this game. So here's my sip to you, Capcom. Thanks for creating an amazing game.
Yeah, you you show me how many hours you've played so far, and there's only one game I have in my list of games I've played that have more hours than that. So.
Damn, don't call me out, Brylan. I didn't tell everybody my number, so leave it alone. Don't share my secrets. So we are pumped, very excited. We are going to get into our spoiler section. So if you have not seen Lego Movie Part 2, this is the time I would say you want to actually stop before we start reviewing and we're spoiling the movie. I would also say I took some time to watch the Lego Movie number 1. I mean, this movie is only an hour and 40 minutes, so it's fairly short. Lego Movie Part 2 is only 6 minutes longer, so again, fairly short, under 2 hours. Very, very easy to kind of watch. You definitely want to make sure that you refresh yourself. I think it was helpful to go back and rewatch number 1 before you go back to rewatch number 2, because I think it's going to be more beneficial to you just to enjoy the actual universe. So, we will be right back for a full spoiler review of Lego Movie 2, the second part. Back, and we're the Down in Front podcast. We are giving you a full spoiler edition review of Lego Movie Part 2, the second part. We are in the spoiler section, so I do want to reiterate that we will be talking about and kind of breaking up the movie in talking about spoilers. And I definitely think you want to make sure that you do kind of watch this movie unspoiled. As we usually do, we're going to break it up into a couple different sections or topics. So we're going to talk about the acting and characters and spaceships for the actual movie itself. And then we'll talk about the plot and the story and the music and how great the music was for this movie. So, without further ado, I'm going to toss it over to the mouth of the South himself and says, Brylan, talk to me about the actings, characters, and of course, the spaceships in this movie.
Awesome. Yeah. So we have all of our original cast coming back from the first Lego movie, and they continue to do a great job of building upon the characters they created at that point. Chris Pratt is still a great Emmett. Elizabeth Banks is great in her role. Who doesn't love Charlie Day as Benny the spaceship guy? So his obsession with spaceships continues and goes beyond that in this film, which is really awesome. But I did want to mention more of new characters and new actors that they actually added that I thought were really cool standouts. One that I thought was very awesome was Chris Pratt does double duty, and not only is he playing Emmett in this movie, but he's also playing Rex Dangervest. And he is pretty much an amalgamation of all the characters that Chris Pratt has played, with a very hard edge to him when it comes as hard of an edge as a Lego character will have to him. And it's funny to see him and Emmett talk to one another and interact, especially before the big reveal at the end where Rex is Emmett from the future. It's just funny to watch because you see that Rex looks pretty much exactly like Emmett, even though he just has scraggly hair and stubble on his face.
It's so good. I love even the fact that they hinted at that multiple times in the movie. What's that on your face?
It even sounds like him too.
But they hinted at the fact of the stubble on his face earlier in the movie, and they hinted at these things, but it was oh yeah, cool, we're just gonna worry about this later, but that actually ended up being a huge plot point. So I definitely commend them on making it enjoyable, but it also was the fact that people talk about this being an animated movie is not very serious, but they pull no stops and they make it engaging, tons of character arcs in it, and it's as if it's a regular movie. So I definitely really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I also loved Rex's spaceship. Like they called it was it called like the Rexinator or something like that?
Yeah, I gotta look at
it. And it was shaped like a giant fist and flying around in space because he likes to punch things and break them. But also his crew of velociraptors is freaking amazing. Like when you see them walk around and they're talking about like, hey Joe, how was your Monday? It's like, oh, my coffee's cold right now and stuff. They're just having like casual like business conversation inside the spaceship, which I thought was a great laugh every single time it happened.
I love especially because Jurassic World came out so soon, right? Last year, Jurassic World 2 came out, and there was this huge plot point of the fact that he basically is the raptor talker, whisperer, whatever. They literally just made fun of it so easily in this movie that it was so enjoyable. To the point where I'm like, man, I would only want to watch Jurassic World just to then watch this movie to see how much they talk about it, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, and I definitely have to hand it to Chris Pratt because, I mean, ultimately in this movie, we find out Rex Dangerfest is kind of the bad guy that's trying to perpetuate the destruction of, or bring upon how do they say, a mama apocalypse?
A mama, no, it was a mama Genna or something like that.
Oh yeah, a Mamageddon.
A Mamageddon, yeah, a Mamageddon, yeah.
A Mamageddon, and they and Chris Pratt just does a fine job of like embodying one character with all like the positive energy and the joy that you want to see someone have in life, but also in a whole nother character, even though he seems very buddy-buddy and everything, he does have this darker overtone to him of feeling like he was cast away and forgotten about. And that's why he has a chip on his shoulder about everybody having fun and like thinking that everybody's getting brainwashed by musical songs and things being happy and everybody trying to get along together, so you can actually kind of empathize with him at the same time where he's in his predicament. And it's also, I think, comes to like a very satisfying conclusion of what happens to Rex in the end, because he ultimately kind of gets what he wants, but also at the same time, he is happy that Emmett turns out to be a better person than he'll ever be. So it was really cool way of how they brought those two characters full circle together.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm just looking through some of these kind of credits, and we talked about how some of the characters are. I didn't even realize who are the voices of some of these other characters. Yeah, and so. I'm even more excited just to kind of name off a few. I'm super glad that they actually got Jason Momoa to play Aquaman.
Aquaman himself, yeah.
Which was a kind of bummer because, Kobe Smolder plays Wonder Woman. And I was like, oh, okay. But then Ralph Fiennes comes back to play Alfred from the Lego Batman movie. But Will Forte is playing, Abraham Lincoln, which I don't know if he did in the original Lego movie. But as I'm like scrolling through, I'm like the hilarious kind of Bruce Willis moments was just absolutely amazing.
Oh my god, yeah! Bruce Willis making fun of Bruce Willis should be a thing in almost every movie.
Like the fact that it's like, what does he keep doing why is he here?
He just winds up in the vents all the time.
Such a good, So I mean, there are just so many good actors and actresses, and such good voice work. I'm just very proud, and I'm glad that it seems as though a lot of people were having fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely want to give also a big shout out to Tiffany Haddish as Queen Wannabe. She does actually adds a lot of fun sass to that character. I mean, Tiffany Haddish is definitely known for playing the sassy independent woman that is trying to get through a man's world in most of her movies, and she brings that sass into this character, and it's neat because you first meet her and she's talking with all this sass and like whatever she's going to do is going to be what happens, and you think, oh, she's evil and controlling and stuff. But we find that that's not the case at the end, that she's just got a sassy attitude, but she is doing what she thinks is the right thing to do in order to kind of merge, or actually bridge two worlds together, from the Sistar system and the Lego characters from the original, like Apocalypseburg. I forget what the name of the original city was, but I think it was like Legoburg or something like that.
I think it was something city. It was Happy City, or
it was something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. We'll look it up. Yeah, we'll look it up.
But I found that to be a neat twist with her character. I just wish with the Queen we had a little bit more time to learn the Queen and get some more depth out of it. She did feel a little bit superficial at times, that she was there to read off like sassy lines, and then at the end, when the big reveal of the Queen's original true form happens, it's more of like she's kind of the MacGuffin of the whole story, and that she's not an actual character to care about, which I found a little disappointed in. Especially
because it seems as though there should have been just as much focus and more care and background and exposition for her character as we got with the Rex Danger Vest, but it wasn't there, and I definitely kind of agree. It felt like as though her character should have been set up for more of a focus, and figure out why she's a shapeshifter, right? They didn't really talk about that. That's not a real toy necessarily that, you know, kids have the ability to kind of play with, shapeshifters, but that's something would have been kind of interesting, especially that they have here. Also, although we had sort of songs in the first movie, none of the characters actually broke out in an actual musical number, much like we did in this movie. So right. I felt like that was a very, very different approach to this character. As much as I enjoyed it, there was other moments that I'm like, ooh, this is kind of getting away from a Lego world. Like, things built in Lego, seeing the Lego pieces, right? I felt like they kind of branched off to that, which I think made sense in the movie.
Like the song, like the song Gotham City Guys. It's a good song. It's a fun song. It probably plays better in a Lego Batman movie.
Yes, bro.
Rather than, or like a Batman cartoon movie.
Yeah, it definitely felt like Batman became the center of attention for why. It was kind of weird, the fact that even Batman was even getting married, knowing that Emmett was like the leader, and we know that Emmett was a chosen one. So I thought that was kind of weird that it felt like it kind of derailed, and they wasn't entirely sure, and they wanted to have Will Arnett just be hilarious, which I'm fine with because I freaking love Lego Batman. I love his Batman version of it. Yeah. And also the new costumes for Batman being white and glittery. But it definitely did distract me from what else was going on, because at that time that was happening, I kind of wanted a bit more of the mechanics of what's happening with the story with Emmett and how he ended up becoming Rex, right? I would really much rather see those machinations of how it's been created and less of the fluff and the fun, or just give me more of the character development for Queen, whatever, or Watanabe, and not just, you know, hey, I'm not evil. Hey, I'm not evil. She has a song that talks about she's not evil. Spoiler alert, she actually isn't evil, but we don't know that in the movie, right? And so we're sitting here also believing Wildstyle, there we go. We're sitting here believing Wildstyle, and it's like, clearly they're evil. She's saying she's not evil, but in this movie she's clearly evil. But again, that was another red herring. The difficult thing about doing that particular red herring or sort of misdirection was we didn't really get a payoff until, you know, the 15 minutes left in the movie, and it's like, well, that's tough, because we're watching this movie an hour and 20 minutes thinking that they're going to be evil, and the payoff is not, and so it seems a bit of a waste. Right.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, like, some of the other actors they got to do some of the cameo voices. Two of the cameo voices I wanted to point out were especially two of my favorite British actors. Richard Ayoade as the ice cream cone. Mm-hmm. He was fantastic. He's from the IT crowd. and he's always been hilarious. And then Noel Fielding from the Mighty Boosh as Balthazar, the glittery vampire, who is fantastic as well, is just like spoofing on all the Twilight vampires and just acting like he's this character that's going to brainwash everybody, which he really doesn't. He just gives them makeovers that includes glitter all the time. Yeah, but did you have something to say?
No, you good.
No. All right. But yeah, there was one character that I found just kind of puzzling throughout the movie, and that was General Mayhem, or Sweet Mayhem, as she's called, when she takes off her helmet. And the reason for that is she's set up really well for having this like cool suit and cool helmet, and having this voice modulator that makes her sound like she's going to be the big bad of this movie. Also, she has a really cool spaceship, and when the Lego characters try to attack it, like her weapons are just a lot more powerful than theirs, so they can't really hold up to it. She's even a more modern Lego figure. She's like part of the like Lego Friends set, which is like a middle, like an in-between set series of Duplo and Lego series. So if you want, it's like to introduce like younger kids, but not grown up enough for the complex Lego sets, to do something kind of simple and fun, but also get characters that are a little bit more human-like. But she's the one that goes out and does, quote-unquote, the Queen's dirty work to actually kidnap these characters and bring them to the Sistar system. And we're wondering why she is kidnapping them, why she's using these violent means, even though it's like shooting stars at people. That it's kind of odd to like see her go through all these like kind of criminal ways of getting people to come to this wedding that's supposed to bridge the gap of one Lego world with another. And then at the end, when we have the reveal of her, there's no real connection of her to anybody else. That I guess when we see her and her hair is like multicolored and everything, that we're supposed to kind of think that Wildstyle sees her and kind of sees her younger self in her. Maybe that's kind of afraid, but also a little naive and wanting to do the best thing, but doesn't really know how to do it. But I really feel like that connection was kind of weak when that happens. And like no disregard to Stephanie Beatriz, I thought she did a good job as a character. It's just the character just didn't feel like it fit well into the overall story. The movie probably could have been just as well without her.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. I definitely felt like that was a bit of a wasted character, so much so that I thought that General Mayhem was actually Wildstyle from a different timeline or future or something like that, so it's still kind of somehow meshed together. I did think it was interesting, though, that they did kind of explain why they came with violence at this point, because they basically had been fighting them off for 5 years straight, and so they wasn't even sure, when they came to that planet, they were trying to be peaceful, but when they came and playing peaceful, they tried to fight them off. So they've always been fighting them off, but they never actually tried a peaceful tactic. So I kind of get that sort of background to it. But I definitely felt like that character was a waste. Stephanie Beatriz is absolutely hilarious. I love her in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And so it's kind of a bummer that she has a role that's not really utilized. And I think another kind of thing is I feel like this was trending on the side of maybe too many roles, maybe too many people. And I felt like that's what they did with that's probably another reason why a lot of people didn't really like Lego Batman, besides it, not really fitting into the storyline. Definitely why a lot of people did not like the Lego Ninja movie. But they just felt like just like
I didn't see the Ninjago movie.
Yeah, it was fun. I definitely watched it, but it didn't make sense. But like you spread yourself out a bit too thin. So I'm glad that they didn't take everybody. They didn't even have Morgan Freeman from the first movie. They didn't have him in the second, although he's technically dead, but So they didn't have him. They really kind of focused on the core 6 or 7 members from the first movie, which was not the core people from the first movie, but whatever.
Yeah.
And so they kind of really focused on that. I think that was a very smart move not to overblow it and kind of introduce a few newer characters. I'm just kind of bummed that 2 of the really main new characters they have, Queen, whatever, Watanabe, and General Mayhem, was some of the weaker ones. So that's kind of a bit of a bummer.
Even though he has bit parts, like Surfboard Dave has some really great moments.
Oh
when,
man,
like,
so
they're
good.
in the apocalypse and stuff. It's like instead of Surfboard Dave, what does he become? Like
Chainsaw Dave.
Chainsaw Dave.
Yeah. But then later on, he also changes his name. What was the last? It was another change. I mean, these are some of these like hitful moments that are just like, oh, that's clever, that's funny, I get it. But this person literally comes from the first movie, which is mind-blowing, right? Like, that's another thing that you're setting something up 5 years later, or you at least kind of can tie things back to 5 years later, be like, oh, that's funny. I really like that. Nice.
Lastly, when it comes to characters, the last person I want to talk about is one of the live-action characters we get to see in the movie, which is Maya Rudolph as the mom in the Amamageddon. Maya Rudolph now cannot do any wrong in my book. She's fantastic in anything that she does now. Her mom hits all the right marks in this movie, even though she's there for like 2 scenes. I mean, just the feeling of being a mom that has to put her foot down literally and figuratively when kids can't get along with like with playing with their toys or just like trying to share and everything. She just kind of embodies what that mom looks like and what the caring mom that's going to have to put her foot down looks like as well. And I love that she has the infamous like final straw, which is stepping on a piece of Lego and the pain that comes with that, and that's what causes a Mamageddon. So that was fantastic how they did that.
I love the fact that they gave her little opportunity to kind of shine. Kind of feeding off of that, I was really bummed that we literally got one line of President Business, which is Will Ferrell, who's like, oh, I'm going to go play golf, and left, which
is hilarious.
I think it's hilarious for sure, because I was like, was that a jab at Trump? Because that's hilarious. And he, like, literally the beginning of the movie, straight up says, I'm going to go play golf, and pieces out, and then the world turns to Armageddon. And I'm like, is this a jab at Trump? Because I am all about this. This is great. So I thought that was absolutely amazing. And then we got his him screaming off camera. I was like, kids, listen to your mom, sort of thing. It's like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
So I was bummed, though. I kind of wanted a bit more of Will Ferrell. I felt like he was pretty serious in the first one. He didn't really get a chance to do anything comedic at all in the first movie, and in this movie he just straight up leaves. Live action doesn't do anything comedic, so I guess it's okay. But it was kind of a bummer that I really wanted a bit more of him.
But yeah, like, I mean, he did the same thing that like Maya Rudolph did in this film, in the first one, where he plays that like caring father that also has to kind of teach responsibility to his kids as he goes along, or just help them understand the rules, and when the kid wants to bend the rules, what does that look like and how it impacts others. So, I mean, he's one of those actors that can definitely tread the line between hilarious and dramatic really well. And yeah, in this one, he is kind of underutilized, but you know what? With Will Ferrell, even him screaming off of a side of a camera is still entertaining.
Very true. I can't agree with you more there. I love almost all of Will Ferrell's work. I gotta say almost now. Cool. Yeah, I mean, so we're talking about the acting and character in Spaceships. Damn, I have never seen end credit sequence as phenomenal as this. Yeah. I mean, it has nothing to do. We're in a day and age now that everybody feels like there's some sort of stinger or spoiler at the end of the movie, and I think they kind of made their way away from that. We sat there in the movie. We watched this in Dolby, and we sat there, and I was completely enthralled with the actual end credit sequence. And they had such a meta song before it talks about the end credit sequence is going to be the best part of the movie, and boom, it literally was, with the colors, the music, a new song by Matt and Kim, which I'm definitely biased to. Yeah. I can't talk enough of how phenomenal that was. So kudos, super kudos, because it feels like nobody talks about an end credit sequence unless it's a stinger at the end, you know?
Yeah, and it looked like they actually built real motorized sets, and it wasn't a CG or stop motion animation to make those things happen. That they actually had to queue up and actually move the Legos and film the Legos at a certain point to capture those end credits. But one thing I actually really appreciate about the end credits was they would take time every once in a while, and I guess they did some type of a submission thing where they say, like, show us 2 people in your family and the Lego set you built together. And I thought that was fun to, like, include that. And that you saw, like, oh, here's Jim and Pam, their brother and sister from the United States, and here's the spaceship they built. And it's always really cool to just give a shout-out to everyday people and the appreciation and the love they have for this franchise, because I'm a diehard Lego fan. I still collect them to this day, and I know what that feeling is of just like feeling like having a company and a toy or a building set that you can always rely upon to give you those feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I just really enjoy. There was just everything that was working for that, and it kind of put a bit of like multiple exclamation points for how fun and enjoyable this movie was, which is crazy because I'm talking about the ending credits first, but definitely I would say just stay tuned and just go through the actual credits. I think it's a lot of fun, so I definitely kind of enjoyed that. I loved how much fun this movie was with all the characters and even with the introduction of the new characters. It was still so hilarious that, we talked about the Danger Vest and how he just made fun of his Jurassic World. Charlie Days just being Charlie Days, just screaming random things in the actual movie. I thought that was actually kind of great.
Benny's one of the best.
Yeah, for sure. But the last thing is just the other huge reveal that they did at the end of this actual story was the fact that the origin of the song "Everything Was Awesome" was created by Wildstyle, and this blows my mind. Here is I went and rewatched. I told you I watched number 1 when Emmett is showering in number 1. His hair is kind of messed up and disheveled, and he then combs it over. The style when his hair is all messed up and disheveled is Rex Dangervest.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, come on, that's great. The other thing to know is when Everything Was Awesome was big and stuff like that, like, it just became big and then it just kind of disappeared and she kind of came back randomly as Wildstyle. And so that I thought was also hilarious because there was also some things that they were hinting at that she was the original creator of that song, which we didn't know about. So I'm really glad like they kind of put that in.
When they washed her hair, like they did like kind of a reverse like thing you would usually see, like the colorization of the hair go out and it would be the natural hair color, where in her hair the black came out and we saw her natural hair color is the green and the purple spiral together. Which
is so great. And I thought it was hilarious because the story itself, and we're going to get into this one in a moment, the story itself is going to be great because it definitely kind of brings a good amount of levels, and we have some arcs in the story. We actually have some emotional beats, which I thought was great because in a lawless world, some very Mad Max, which I'm super bummed. I really wanted to see Charlize Theron pop up in here. I thought that would have been great. But like a Mad Max sort of like lawless society, Emmett was still trying to talk about, creating something more and kind of building on something even more. Hey, as he created this house with all the fancy things, and they did the same sort of slide over that Batman and Lego Batman had. So I'm really glad they actually kind of put some emotion, a bit more emotion behind in this story, and not just kind of an origin story for Emmett from number one. So I thought that was really cool to kind of really get some emotional backing to some of these characters. Although it's a cartoon, although it's animated, I think it was still very fun. So, talk to me about the plot and story, and I know we talked a bit about the music, so we're definitely going to talk into this. So, take it away, Bradley.
Yeah, so one thing I want to mention off the top before we get into this is after seeing Lego Movie and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and now Lego Movie 2, Lord and Miller, they amaze me every single time they come out with a movie now where the stories they write, they're filled with so much depth and heart that you would think, like, when the Lego Movie was first announced, like, okay, someone's going to make a movie about Legos. It's going to be probably visually stunning and not that much you care about. But they put so much heart and complexity about this idea of following the rules versus being your own creative person and individuality that is so deep, but it's also about the bonding of a father and son as well over shared interest. That you're blown away by how incredibly mature it actually makes the content of the film, and they continue to do that, especially with something like Into the Spider-Verse, and they even continue to do it here, where we have a story about a brother and a sister, where the brother has been playing with the Legos since the first film, and it's 5 years later, and he's grown up, and he's actually starting to deal with becoming a teenager and what that means. Where is his feelings at? That they're becoming unfocused, and he has a lot on his mind. And when his parents told him to start letting his sister play along with those big giant sets that his dad built in the basement, that he kind of feels like something special's being taken away from him. And then that's why we get this apocalypse-berg happen, is that these Duplo characters, which are the first Legos that his sister plays with, it becomes that classic sibling rivalry thing where it's like, I'm going to shoot you with my laser gun. No, but I have a master shield that'll block any lasers you shoot at me. And I love that they actually take the time to add that in, where you can relate to it and feel that nostalgia about playing with your own siblings as well. I have an older brother, so I've definitely been there many, many times when it came to like trying to see whose imagination can out trump the other's imagination, which it is. And it's and I think it's just so important to have this played out on screen for young kids so they can see a story that treats childhood very maturely and respectfully, that it's okay to fight, to actually disagree with one another and even fight with one another, as long as you learn why you should play together too, and what you can get out of that, and what the other side of it, and also if you do hold a grudge, how it can actually bring more negativity past just playing the game and into the relationship versus coming to an understanding with one another. And I thought I thought when the reveal of Queen whatever wannabe is the gift that Emmett built initially to give to the Duplo aliens, that hit me very, very raw emotionally. Like, I was like, oh, that's one of the sweetest things I've seen in a movie in a while. But it's also very meaningful when it comes to that point as well. I felt like you could actually kind of see it coming a little bit, just because the color of the Queen's bricks, not racist.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know how he's going to deliver this line, but no, it's not racist.
No.
The one thing the one thing I was kind of bummed about was I wish that was actually in the first movie. That should have been. That should have been in that. Yeah. But go ahead.
But I just found that even though there are some, I do think they are overstretching the plot a bit, the emotions and the lessons to learn are still there, and they're still just as well done as they were in the first Lego movie.
Yeah.
Also, like, the animation is fantastic. Using Legos to make and animating them to bring these worlds to life is a lot of fun. And I just am reminded by, like, all the Lego Star Wars video games or the Harry Potter video games, and just how fun it is to, like, build something in one of those games and see how they actually use Lego to kind of recreate those stories. It gives me that type of feeling again. But also, I love the whole Duplo monster attack on the city. It actually is a really visually stunning work, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it just made it that I just kind of just blown away how deep these stories are. And again, you know, I think you mentioned that you hit this, like, right on the nail of the head. The fact that I can understand, and if I'm blown away by Pixar, I'm still going to be blown away by Pixar, but I get it because that's what they're known to do. I mean, god damn. I went to go see Toy Story 3 when I was a camp counselor, and I was basically crying in the theater with my campers. They didn't care, but it was a movie clearly made for me, who, like, grew up with the Toy Story franchise. And then you get sort of surprised when this happens outside of Disney and Toy Story universe, and, you know, very similar. It kind of gets there a little bit with Lego Movie 1, but not really. That felt like it was a bit more surface level, but still fun.
Yeah.
But man, Into the Spider-Verse blew me away emotionally, especially how different we can be, yet we can still be kind of accepted, and there's more people out there that are like you, even if we look different, and that's okay. So that really, really kind of hit me, especially to the fact that which is something with acceptance, and that was they actually are talking about acceptance and being who you are. It's completely okay. You can still do whatever you want to do. So that now we talk about a Lego movie, which I did not realize we're going to be able to get this deep, but it kind of blows me away over the fact that, you know, I'm the youngest of 5, and I've been there, I've done that, you know, my older siblings had to share their toys, and I tried to play with my older brothers, and they don't want to play. And just the focus on play, and the focus on just, like, siblings and what you talk about was very, very helpful. It definitely was a backdrop to the story, but it still was a good amount of focus on the story. And so not many people play with toys too much, I don't think, especially because everything's kind of all online, right? And you have a phone, iPad,
right,
something like that, especially young. So you have some sort of video game that's animated, and it's tough to actually build blocks and kind of build that up. So I think that was really, really mind-blowing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I also, like, wanted to go back to, like, just how they animate things. I love when the difference between being in the Lego worlds and also being in the real world, and then seeing, like, Emmett be sent to the Undar system, or to the planet Undar in the Dryar system.
Dryar.
I love the names in this movie.
So
but it was really cool to see just that toy that's forgotten underneath, like, the dryer and dust collecting and stuff like that. Like, how many toys have you had that similar thing has happened? And to put that kind of emotional resonance into how that toy might have felt, if being left underneath there, I thought was amazingly well done. And it makes a character like Rex Dangervest feel a lot more relatable as well, which I thought was definitely well done, and makes this movie much better than it should be, I think.
And it's crazy because that plot point was almost it definitely wasn't taken from. It was definitely different. But I remember Toy Story 2 and thinking, holy shit, this toy is finally being kind of preserved. And Woody got cleaned up by the guy, had like he got shined his boots, he repainted everything, he made it look pristine. And I've always thought was like, oh shit, like in the first movie, I kind of felt bad when I don't play with toys. This is how they feel. And now when people idolize some of these toys that we see on like Amazon, eBay, stuff like that. It's crazy to think that, how these toys are feel and how they want to kind of stay in that some unaltered but like very pristine and kind of perfect sort of state, which I think was kind of crazy because he ended up like I can't remember the name of the villain in Toy Story 2, but he ended up kind of going rogue because he wanted to make sure that they can keep that perfect life. And so I also think it's funny that, in the first movie when Emmett kind of breaks the cartoon or Lego world and goes into the real world, he has these visions from before, right? He has these visions in number 1, and number 2, he also has these same visions too. So I'm like, is there something there? Yeah. Something's about 515, and something about a dolphin. It's like a talking ice cream clone, and Batman's kind of covered with glitter. But that's the dream, right? It's like clearly it's not. But I love that they are already pulling storylines from the first movie and talking about themselves too. But it's also talking about like cheesy, pretty bad sort of sci-fi movies who also do it the same way, just not as good.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, like just like the visual differences between the different Lego worlds here. So we see after the many years of fighting with the Duplo and everything, the Happy Lego City has become Apocalypseburg, and it looks like Mad Max, and it's like they're basically living inside the head of the Statue of Liberty, and everything's behind a large metal wall, and apparently Batman became the king at one point because he's sitting on a giant throne. He has the biggest gun to shoot at things. But I think it's really cool to see that because it's kind of reflecting the brother and like what type of where his imagination is taking him right now. Like they kind of allude to like growing up and getting older, like you start to explore darker elements in your life and everything. And they even mentioned like, haven't you seen The Matrix? No, because that's for older kids.
Yeah, that's great.
But it's cool to see like, yeah, he has like this Mad Max world that he's built out, and then his sister in the Sistar system, it's still bright and colorful and shiny, but it's also chaotic too. So there's different mishmashes of things that are happening, but also there's I don't know. I don't want to call it like the Sistar system. Like a lot of it is about trying to control others to be like them, but it's more of a very overly aggressive way of just saying, play with me now. So you think about like that young sibling that annoys you is like, let's play. And that's kind of like the same feeling I got when we visited the Sistar system, that it's aggressive but also shiny and happy at the same time. But also the Sistar system's full of music too. And Lord and Miller, I mean, Everything is Awesome was a fun, fantastic, catchy song to take away from the first Lego movie. I'm sure it got nominated for an Oscar. I don't know if it won that year or not. It didn't?
No. I was real pissed, but whatever. Yeah.
But they even have a more catchier song in this movie called Catchy Song. And it's amazing because the lyrics are very simple and everything. It's something you would expect from a younger sibling, but it's still fun and vibrant and still makes these characters just stand out, and makes the movie a lot of fun. And even the other songs I enjoy too, even if they feel like they don't necessarily belong in the world. I think they still do a great job, especially like when they start singing Everything Is Not Awesome and they're being put into the bins and a Mamageddon has happened. Just the Benny's line is like, I finally understand Radiohead. It's like one of the most like preteen like malaise phrases you could actually throw at something. I find that to be hilarious.
I love a lot of those lines because, again, some of the kids are not going to get it at all. I think that's be kind of great. But there were just so much jam-packed stuff they kind of put in this movie for older or adults to kind of get and kind of laugh at, and it says, "Oh, I remember that. This is actually pretty funny." So I'm just glad they kind of put that in the actual film itself. I thought that really was great.
Yeah.
I'm looking up the 86th Annual Academy Awards because now that you've said that, I'm curious to see who do they lose out to. Alfonso Cuarón won for Gravity. Okay, yeah, of course, he wins all the time. So for animated feature, damn, it also wasn't in 2015. So weird because that was back in Frozen. So I'll look at that. That's okay. Only a couple things I do want to kind of mention here was really kind of two things. There was one in which I'm glad that they didn't retread over. I'm glad that this Lego movie was not like Lego Batman, although I enjoyed it, and the Lego Ninja movie. The Lego Batman just took off a kind of aside for one character and kind of explained that, but it was its own universe. It was the Batman universe, but it was kind of like a satire of the Batman universe as a whole. It was very, very fun. It was enjoying. I genuinely enjoyed it, but it definitely was a disconnect. The Ninja movie had nothing to do with any of this, and that was basically a ninja movie that wanted to be Legos. And Jackie Chan was in there for some strange reason. And so this movie then comes out, and I was kind of nervous that I knew it was going to still deal with the first movie, but I wasn't entirely sure how close. And I think by the opening sequence, because it literally picked off where the last line of the movie ends, was perfect. So I'm really glad there was some strange, some crazy continuity there. I talked about the continuity with Emmett's hair and the songs and the music. I thought that was actually really, really helpful, especially that they have a WNBA player in here, which is great. They have Gary Payton, right? There were some things they put in the first movie that should have been like a little bit more equality, and they kind of made sure they can try to kind of put it into the second movie. So I did really enjoy about that. The one thing I was kind of bummed about, though, is I think for the first about maybe 25, 30 minutes of this movie, I was definitely losing a little bit of steam because we got those characters that we had talked about, right? We got the General Mayhem character, we got the Queen Watanabe's character, we got some music numbers that all came out of nowhere. And it's a tough way to start a movie because you have to get some buy-in quickly, and it's like, oh, what's going on here? And so that, I think, was very entertaining for me, kind of getting past that, but it was definitely tough, and I think I was sitting in the theater like, ooh, I don't know if I like where this is going, and then it turned around really quickly. So I just really hope that people aren't dissuaded as much. I love the movie. I thought the movie was like crazy enjoyable. And especially because they talk about this is jam-packed with other movie references, other character references, other satire references, music references. It's just jam-packed with everything that we want to see in a movie like this, with also the actual actors themselves. So definitely go check that out. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So let's get into our lasting thoughts and a bit of a conclusion. So Brylan, talk to me about the Lego Movie 2 for your final thoughts. Would you recommend this movie? And if you do recommend this movie, what other movie would you tell people to watch beforehand?
I would definitely recommend seeing this movie. I felt that Lego Movie 2 was just as good as the first one. I am enjoying this series. I hope they continue to explore what they can do with this film franchise as well. I felt that Lego Movie 2 was just different enough to kind of keep you more interested in what they're building in this universe. Even though I feel like the plot of the movie kind of got a little bit over complex at times. Mm-hmm. But what I really love to see come out of this would be like a spin-off movie that's just starring Benny, the spaceman, and like his love of spaceships. I love everything about that character. He's by far my favorite character in the first Lego movie. Just when I saw the little spaceman that had his little astronaut symbol kind of scratched off and worn, and the little break in his helmet, I was like, wow, that's exactly like the characters I had when I was building those same Lego spaceship kits. And I was like, that's just brilliant. That's just brilliant work of creating in the authenticity of the Lego experience, which I thought was amazing. And I thought, and I think they need to continue just keeping Lord and Miller like the runners of this series to keep that authenticity going and just continue to build out these really cool lessons that young kids can really appreciate and take away from these films.
I mean, I can't agree with you more. So right now, by far, this is my favorite movie of 2019, especially because January was not the best month for movies. I'm really glad that it expands on this universe. It was like they made a lot of different breadcrumbs in Lego Movie 1. So I'm curious if they were thinking about multiple movies when they did that with the new worlds and the time travel and things like that. So I'm always glad that they're having a nice fresh story on top of what's already there. That just kind of gets more buy-in and allows you to get more people to be involved and kind of curious about the Lego film. I think I talked with Emma. She hasn't even seen the first movie. And so I'm like, well, there's no point in you watching the second movie. So watch the first one first. So I'm glad it wasn't like a retread, but I'm also glad they put more of an emotional element into this movie. Like we had talked about, like the Lego Movie number 1, I really enjoyed. I thought the movie was definitely like entertaining and a marvel on film. I thought that was great, but there was not a lot of emotional beats into that movie besides just Emmett and who he is as a person, and anybody can be the special. Whereas now in this movie, I felt like they actually have a human component and a bit more emotional stakes, which I thought was actually great. Another thing I actually meant to mention, and another thing I liked about this movie was they created this concept of creation in the first movie of being master builders. And I think one of the things I really liked was when they are looking at different parts, they have the number of the piece of part on it, and they were able to kind of create whatever they want. And so that's their lore, right? That's what they have created in the first film. In this film, it's then reversed. And so Emmett learns how to destroy things and breaks it down, and that's like a way to kind of just get rid of everything. And I thought that was actually great too. At the same time, he's the person who creates it, is the person to destroy. So I'm curious to see if somebody else has the ability to do that too, because we haven't seen anybody else be able to destroy things like he can. So I thought they definitely kind of created like their own universe. I would love for them to keep going. I definitely do not want any side stories, though. We've seen it already with Lego Batman. It was not very good. As much as I want to see Benny in the jets, the spaceships, as much as I want to see that, like, make it a side, like, make it a smaller
make it a TV series.
Yeah. No. Make it like a short film and, like, let's let it
short.
go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, YouTube short. But kind of keep going with this, you know. I'm curious to see when the next time they make this movie, right? And if it's going to be treading on the footsteps of Toy Story, because really we have not too many animated movies like this that talks about toys. Really, I think we don't have that many, but could be. I can go check. So definitely kind of keep up the good work. I really, really love this movie. I don't know which one I like more. I like the subtleties of movie number 1 and all the other stuff that was kind of put behind it, and they didn't really address a lot of the dressing on the actual movie itself, but I just enjoyed all the emotional beats of this. So I definitely say if you are going to go watch this movie, watch number 1. Again, both of these movies are under 2 hours, so it's definitely going to make for an easy watch. And with that, we are the Down in Front podcast. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Thanks so much, Brylan, for hanging out with me tonight and being on here as you normally are, for being an amazing co-host. Where can people find more of your work on the interwebs?
You can find me building or destroying things on Twitter at Bryland, Brilund. You can also see me posting many movie and TV reviews on Instagram at I am Bryland, or enjoy one of my delicious memes I put up from time to time.
I love a delicious meme, especially there was the one funny one that you talk about eating. I think today, I think that was hilarious. So I really enjoyed that. Check out more of our work at downinfrontpodcast.com. There you'll be able to see our all of our artwork, all of our previous recordings, our video teasers. We have some bios of the crew members. We have some My News band music information in there. We have some Friends with Blends and other projects that we do there, so definitely go check that out. If you're on the social media, I mean, we're on Reddit, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. So just search for downinfrontpodcast.com on the Reddit, on Twitter _at DIFP, on Facebook is facebook.com/downinfrontpodcast. If you like what we do and you want to actually support us, definitely consider becoming a patron. Anything and everything is going to be helpful. We are actually kind of revamping that program to kind of bring more and more content for you. A lot of the things that we talk about a lot, we want to make sure that you have the availability to then kind of create for there. So definitely check that out. That's patreon.com/downinfrontpodcast. If you actually want to kind of hang out with us, we're actually entertaining an idea of joining our Discord channel that we talk about some of the other reviews and other conversations we have. So we'll be seeing if we can kind of post that information either in the show notes and maybe a link soon. So definitely kind of stay tuned for that. And if you do like streaming, we are actually on Spotify. So definitely kind of search for us on Spotify for Down in Front Podcasts. And we appreciate it. Mr. Bryland, what is our next review?
Our next review will be Alita Battle Angel, or as the original manga title is, Battle Angel Alita.
Interesting. I didn't realize it was a manga. I'm pretty sure they're going to bastardize it and destroy that, but I think it should be fine. Hopefully it's an enjoyable movie. I haven't really seen too many manga to American-made films that's been a success. Shut your mouth. You shut your damn mouth right now.
I already got beef with this movie because
oh boy,
there's no reason to flip the title. I mean, keep it the way it is. I loved the anime as a kid, so.
Interesting. Didn't know it was an anime. Okay, well, we'll see. I think I'm already signed up to check that out tonight on Valentine's Day, so that'll be a perfect movie. So I'm excited for that. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it, and have a good night. Yeah, well, there was just so much good music in this damn movie. Like, I'm all about